Hey everyone, welcome to Talking Tokens, a podcast focused on interviewing the best crypto founders, market players, and up-and-coming startups that are changing the industry every single Tuesday and Thursday. I'm Jacqueline Melinek, your award-nominated host and former senior crypto reporter turned entrepreneur, and I'm excited to be here with you all. Now, let's get into it. Mo, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Good to see you, Jackie.
It's good to see everyone here too. Yeah, welcome to the Aptos quarterly webinar. Of course, I am joined here today with Mo Shaikh, the co-founder and CEO of Aptos Labs. In addition to the discussion, we will open up the floor to Q&A at the end from community members listening in. So if you have questions, post them in the chat. We see a lot of people saying GM and hello. We love it. Welcome, and we're excited to have you. Also, for the upcoming Aptos Experience Festival in Seoul in September, we have a promo code for listeners that we'll share with the audience now. It'll be posted in the show notes later, but use the special code Aptos Moves in caps for 20% off tickets to the event. We hope we see you all there. We'll both be there. And with that said, let's start with some background and context. Aptos has had a very eventful quarter with a peak total daily transaction surpassing 154 million last month, making it the highest metric across any blockchain. Aptos also saw weekly active contracts near early highs from when it launched on mainnet, signaling growth in developer interest. The number of active and new addresses on Aptos blockchain also hit an all-time high in March at 4.65 million, according to data from the block. On the business development front, the network recently integrated Chainlink to offer its developers a greater suite of products and tools to build with, saw strong demand and with apps and platforms building in the DeFi, NFT, and gaming sectors on Aptos, and announced a big partnership with Microsoft, Brevin Howard, SK Telecom, and consulting partner BCG to expand Aptos Ascend, which we will get into later. That is a lot, and that is amazing that so much can happen in one quarter. With that said, there's a lot to talk about here. Mo, welcome. Excited to talk.
Thank you for having me, and it's a pleasure. It's unbelievable in terms of the amount of momentum that the Aptos ecosystem has seen, and when you kind of were recalling all those items, it's surprising to see we're able to do all that in a quarter. So excited to dig in.
Yeah, no, there's no way I could memorize it all, but I have it written down.
Excellent.
So to start off, there can be a lot of speculation out there about what's driving people to Aptos now more than previous quarters or since its mainnet launch. But from your perspective, what are you seeing? What do you think is causing this demand for Aptos this most recent quarter?
Yeah, I think it's a good point to open up with. And, for a lot of the folks that are on the call, some of you have probably been in this space for a while, and it's amazing to see that the Aptos ecosystem is reaching these significant milestones in a way that we're really not trying to catch up to Web 2 anymore from a performance perspective. And when you talk about some of the metrics around what we're able to see within different games, and we'll click into that. That user experience, that performance is now it's there at the Web 2 level. And so this quarter, we were able to support an amazing amount of projects and applications, and really tap into what's been possible on the world's most scalable, most reliable, and high performance interoperable L1. And there's a couple of examples that showcase that. The first is Kid Labs. And so when you think about what ticketing looks like in the existing world, and I was just in a conversation yesterday with someone whose daughter was trying to buy tickets to Taylor Swift concert, and we're all like, good luck. We need new, more fair, more transparent systems designed for a business model that is more transparent. And so when we look at ticketing, Kid Labs is reinventing the live event fan conception for artists, venues, for concert promoters and stakeholders across this entire music landscape. And to really engage with this audience, you need to be able to provide a music landscape that thinks about the ticket sale data and eventually bringing it back to the right stakeholders. And so, and I see Ahmed is on the call here as well. And so, shout out to the Kid Labs team that's creating a lot more fairness in a very opaque, a very one-sided market. And so amazing stuff to see these models that we've talked about for a very long time actually come to fruition. And the reason that happens is when a user is coming in and buying tickets, they don't really even feel that they're buying a Web3 ticket. It's a completely seamless experience. And again, that experience today, what Kid Labs does a great job of, together with Aptos, is it's an experience that's completely it's better than the Web2 Ticketmaster experience. And so instead of you queuing up virtually or maybe somewhere else to get these tickets, you're able to do it completely seamlessly with a Web3 native experience in the background.
Yeah, that's so important for it to be able to.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, and so that's just one demonstration. The second is, how does that actually happen? Is a lot of complexity underneath that allows not only for Aptos to showcase the performance, but also thoughtful entrepreneurs building these products. The second was a tickle to earn game called Tapos, which launched in May this year or this quarter, and they were. We were excited and also kind of nervous to see, on a long Memorial Day weekend, what would happen. But I think you called out there were an amazing amount of folks that came and actually played that game on the long weekend here in the U.S. and globally. And we achieved numbers that were just unfathomable in the Web3 world. And what ultimately led to was a bunch of folks, tickling cats, but that led to flipping Solana for the highest volume of transactions of any L1. Mm-hmm. And that sounds great just by itself. But the more important stuff is there was no disruption whatsoever to the performance of the network. Gas fees did not change. And there was no degradation in terms of network performance. So if you think about, as we're flipping these protocols or the high performance protocol in the world, we've done it in a way that it shows that there is no disruption that happens to everything else that's running. So while you're tickling cats, Hamid and Kid Labs doesn't have to worry about tickets not being sold for Taylor Swift. That is the world that we want to operate in, and that's something that we're very excited about. In not only matching Web2 being at par with Web2, but exceeding Web2 standards.
Right. Yeah. You want transactions to be succeeding across the board, not just for one or the other, or if things are ramping up, it just slows down everything else. You want everything to go at the speed it should be.
That's right. That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah. And in terms of new addresses on Aptos, in the intro, I talked about that a little bit too. Where do you see the most demand for that right now?
So new addresses is definitely a very interesting metric that we're tracking, and the demand has been growing significantly. And when you sort of dissect the different categories that we're focused on, whether that be gaming, media, entertainment, or social, the underlying or the underpinning category here ends up being a financial system that's now more open, more accessible, and that ecosystem is thriving on Aptos. There's three interesting sort of use cases or products that we're seeing where there is a significant amount of user growth. The first is Ondo, where a seamless institutional grade experience for Web3 decentralization around their stablecoin, yield-bearing stablecoin has been moving forward. And not only do you have USDY now, you have a collaboration that's taking place with Aptos Labs, a DeFi protocol built on Aptos that's working closely with Ondo that integrated it directly into their AMM pools. And this is noteworthy because if you're a DeFi user, whether you're institution or you're retail, you can now get access to high yield products, high credit products with folks like Ondo directly through Aptos Labs. And so that's certainly been a big driver there. Merkle Trade, they have been working quite rigorously over the last quarter as well. And they reached $4 billion in total trading volume earlier this year. And so, folks like Merkle, not only are they taking advantage of the Aptos protocol, but the incentives that they're putting out and the mechanisms that they've worked through has really helped them reach a $4 billion whopping number faster than probably any protocol that we've seen.
Yeah, that's
and going back to Thala. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that's like no small feat for sure.
Yeah, and
And
you
with
know,
Thala,
again,
yeah.
yeah, and so an amazing group of founders pushing Merkle forward, and then Thala reached $199 million in TVL, and you know, their Thala swap processed $19 million in transactions within 24 hours on March 19th. And this just shows, you know, you can have this amazing amount of volume being processed on the protocol. The breadth of these transactions and this activity can only really happen on Aptos. And that's been kind of a fun meme to track, you know, what's only available on Aptos. And, you know, again, all of these things are running concurrently without any disruption, without transactions failing, without gas fees changing. And so, you know, not only do you need a high performance network that surpasses protocols like Solana, but also provides that reliability so these applications and these founders can continue to build sustainable long-term businesses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't even know if this is a fair question to ask, given that there's so much growth metrics that are very successful or pointing to success for everyone that's building on Aptos. But are there any areas of growth that you wish Aptos tapped into further, or you're seeing opportunity for greater development that hasn't already happened?
So, I mean, it is a fair question. You know, we think about things at Aptos and even within the community, both kind of on a short term and a long term horizon. And so, some of the short term stuff that we've seen is, um, you know, definitely falls under the category around you know, primitives that existed within within the Web3 landscape, and where those primitives may be facing challenges to scale. They thrive on Aptos. And so, you know, think about a project or a product that might need high performance without, you know, fees being compromised. And so, again, you know, we talked about a couple of projects just now. They all are benefiting and thriving. And so, on a short term, that's the easy one for us to highlight as wins, and we've done that this quarter. On a longer term horizon, when we think about you know, things like money market funds, when we think about deeper financial infrastructure, some of that might be regulated and much more complex. You know, these are all initiatives that we're focused on, and you know, I believe we're going to maybe dive into this a little bit with things like Aptos Ascend.
Mm-hmm.
But these are far these are, you know, these require a lot of complex building cycles, a focus on a multi-stakeholder sort of engagement, and there's a lot that we're working on there. So this is, I guess, falls into the category of, like, you know, stuff that I wish would move faster. So not necessarily not being built, but we're excited to see that stuff come online. And so that's kind of, you know, for the first category within finance, and I guess you can kind of put that in the institutional finance bucket. The second that I'm very excited about is media and entertainment. And when we think about things like IP rights, and you know, the association of like transferring and royalties, that's an interesting one. I think we're starting to see momentum there from the different, you know, IP holders and even new artists that are coming on board. Ticketing is a really good starting point there. But that's an industry that I think is just ripe for disruption. And it benefits immensely and aligns really well with what Aptos is focused on. You know, from a cultural perspective, you have to be there. You can't just provide technology for the sake of, you know, an amazing tech stack, which of course we do, the best in the market. But we also have an amazing group of builders, entrepreneurs, and artists that align culturally with these movements. And so we had an event in New York, our New York City office opening that took place a couple of months ago, where, you know, we had a chance to showcase this. We gathered what I thought were, and the team thought were, some really cool artists doing street art in New York to be able to showcase their art. And well, we didn't want them painting on our walls. That would lead to a lot of fines for us. We're not going to reveal where our office is, but I guess maybe you can figure that out. But the cool thing was, we wanted that street art to be able to kind of go with you if you came to our office. And NFTs are a perfect conduit of that. And, you know, here you're now starting to think about IP creation and sharing of that IP. And now anyone that attended, I think there were over 200 attendees at our office opening, they could scan a QR code of this amazing art that over I think close to 16 artists produced for that office opening, and they have that in their Petra wallet, and they can share that really cool art with themselves, with their families, or with their friends. And that artwork now extends beyond the walls of New York City's office here. And we want to follow that principle and extend that to music, to video content, and surprisingly, a lot of creators that are stuck in the walls of TikTok and Instagram are excited to be able to have that power. And so we're just at the tipping point of what we think is going to be a cultural revolution powered by Aptos.
Yeah, hopefully next quarter we could talk about that and kind of the developments that are happening on that front too, right?
Come to Aptos Experience. You can see it for yourself.
Exactly. Well, we'll reshare the code again at the end if you guys didn't hear at the beginning. But kind of finishing up on this section about growth and metrics, how do you kind of look at scaling Aptos for the rest of the year? What are metrics you're following or you think are important to highlight to the community, given that there's so many numbers out there, so many things people could follow? What are you following?
Yeah, so it's a good question. We think about scaling across the entire stack, and so we should probably share some links in here. I know Camille is on the call, so maybe we can drop in content that we've already introduced around consensus and Shoal to where we are headed with Move. But maybe just touching a little bit on Move to start with. The Move developer experience is one of the most important for us as a differentiating factor within the Web3 landscape. And so, the UX technology, novel feature sets, and all of these internet-ready backed advancements on Aptos really start to anchor with kind of the developer experience. Move is a massive differentiator for us. We've showcased what the beta version of the Aptos Move compiler will look like in the future as well. You probably saw tweets from Wolfgang around Move V2, and so there's some fun stuff that the Move team is cooking up there. So keep an eye out for that, and again, we'll share some more content on that. But the cool thing to highlight is we're seeing pickup with Move, not only scaling internally with us, but also within the broader Web3 landscape. Shout out to folks like Movement Labs and Chainlink, and we'll probably talk a little bit about that too. Mm-hmm. But the Web3 community has really started to embrace Move, and that's something that's exciting for us. And of course, we're going to continue to scale that initiative out.
Yeah, amazing. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, if you got more, please share it.
Yeah, and so that's the advantage that we're seeing with things like Move is again being highlighted by the developers in the open financial stack that are building, and these folks are just taking advantage of all the newest Aptos features in the largest Move ecosystem today as a result of that. So that's a big component for us in terms of continuing to scale Aptos out for the rest of this year. And again, we'll drop some more links so folks can follow along, whether that be advancements on consensus, things like Move, and then a lot of the developer tooling as well. On that point, our dev docs just got a refresh. And so if you're not following Andrew Harari on our team, he's been spending a lot of time thinking through how we improve the developer documentation experience. And even that has been enhanced. So I think we can squeeze that in as another win for this quarter too.
Mm-hmm. On the front of ecosystem and developer development, what do you think it is that inclines projects and teams to build on Aptos opposed to somewhere else, especially with Move involved? What kind of is the biggest value add and incentive here?
So just to understand it, why build on Aptos versus anywhere else in the world?
Yeah, and I imagine the people listening to this call, they could answer that themselves, but maybe from your perspective, like, what do you think really brings people into this community to decide to build here?
It's, I don't think there's one silver bullet that I can kind of point to as the answer. Instead, it's an amalgamation of many different things. To me, I think, if you're a builder in the Aptos ecosystem, I'm a serial entrepreneur, right? And so I've seen what it takes to put your livelihood on the line to build a startup. And these are very strong, convicted individuals and people that are chasing what they see a very important problem to solve. And so if they built that conviction, we want to find, obviously we want to find those entrepreneurs and those builders. We want to give them the best tech out there in market. And, together with our team here at Aptos Labs, we provide that. But I think in addition to that, into the best tech, we provide an amazing community of builders that help you sort of transcend through these very hard walls that you often run into as builders. And so our ecosystem team, led by folks like Neil, help you think through these challenges and these problems that you're facing as an entrepreneur. No builder is out there by themselves. No team is out there by themselves. And not only do you get that support at the ecosystem level around solving these business problems, but you get an amazing investor community that's also excited to see what these projects are building, and they're excited to invest alongside our human capital, our grants, and our support system that we have. But I would say, so those are the first two. The third and the most important thing is, we kind of stick through a lot of the challenges. The entrepreneurship route is one with that may feel like you're on an up and down roller coaster, especially in Web3, where cycles are very different than the broader macro. But when we build equal conviction in a group and a team, we're here for the long run. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, together with the first 2 points that I mentioned, really gives builders in our ecosystem an unfair advantage. And we've seen, and I can, again, point out all these different faces and individuals that I've gotten to know over the last 2.5 years or almost 3 years now, where they've transformed not only as individuals, but as teams and products. And, we're very proud of that and excited to continue to see their evolution. With that being said, more builders that are going to be entering the Web3 space get to benefit not only from us, but from these battle-tested founders and entrepreneurs along the way as well. So yeah. I would say, there isn't one silver bullet, but again, a confluence of all these things that make Aptos the best damn place to build. And we're excited about that.
Yeah, and you've shouted out a lot of the teams building on Aptos, which is great. And I feel like we talked about the Labs before, and it's a DeFi-focused platform, as many of you know, and it's grown to be one of the largest out there. What do you think is kind of one of the drivers behind that?
One of the largest drivers behind someone like Aptos Labs.
One of the biggest ecosystem projects on the network.
Yeah. So just so I understand the question, is it a specific project, or what's the driver behind the growth behind those projects?
Behind Aptos Labs. I was talking about them specifically, but I guess, also in comparison to other chains, obviously you're getting a lot of traction here. What do you think is kind of pulling people in here? This podcast is sponsored by Galaxy, and if you're immersed in the world of Web3, Galaxy is a name you need to know. As a decentralized super app with an impressive 21 million users boasting over 100 million monthly transactions, Galaxy is elevating its impact with Gravity, the magnet chain for Web3. Gravity is designed for full chain abstraction, zero knowledge proof-based privacy, and rapid transaction speeds, all coming together to offer an unparalleled user experience. Gravity opens the door for developers to effortlessly build on the largest on-chain distribution platform, and for users, it promises an even smoother, more secure journey through Web3. It's not about being on-chain, it's about being on the right chain every single time. Galaxy is on a mission to onboard the world to Web3, and Gravity is the magnetic force that will propel that vision forward. Ready to launch your Web3 journey? Build the future on Gravity. Visit gravity.xyz for more information.
Yeah, I think, with Adam and Aptos Labs specifically, right? If you look at again, as a reminder, Aptos means the people. And if you look at the people that are building these products, they are one of the main differentiators in terms of why they've been able to grow and exceed growth rates out there relative to other protocols out there. And so someone like Adam, Sam, and his team, they've been thinking through, they come from a background of working within VC. They've studied a lot of protocols, and they designed with a user experience focus. And that user experience focus has created Thala to provide not only a protocol that works seamlessly, but also keeps in mind what is the long-term retention for some of these builders, for some of these users of their products. And so that's what allowed them to get to $200 million in TVL through things like Thales Swaps processing $20 million in transaction volume. It gives them this unique advantage where, as someone serving the entire Aptos ecosystem, they can be collaborative with other projects and build on that momentum. So when someone like Ondo integrates Aptos and has USDY available, they can get that integrated into their products. And so there is this sort of 1 + 1 = 3 effect here, or greater than 2 effect here. And Thala has taken full advantage of that.
Mm-hmm. And in the past, you and I have talked about how Aptos wants to create more economic value. What does that look like today, and what developments this quarter has kind of driven that ethos further?
Yeah, so I think from an economic value perspective, we need to be able to grow the Web3 landscape. And where do new users come from? Where does new sort of value come from? And one of the things that we've thought about going back to my BlackRock days, and a lot of our team comes from a very institutional background as well. We've tapped into what we think would be economic rails that allow for the comfort of some large financial institutions coming into Aptos. We've looked at private networks. We've looked at all the different versions of those that are out there in market. And our view was, let's create something that allows for everyone to be able to collaborate with each other in a permissionless environment. And so Aptos Ascend is a massive step in that direction to bridge the TradFi and the DeFi gap. And when we think about Aptos Labs facilitating this new product, we wanted to do it with some of the best partners out there in the market, bringing on folks like Brevin Howard, SK Telco, Microsoft, and even BCG, where we announced this global financial markets product, where it's a suite of end-to-end institutional tools that allow for anyone to do what they would typically do in a permissioned walled garden to be able to do it completely in a permissionless environment. And so we're excited about that. It matters for many reasons, right? Because now, if you're a large institution, maybe your value would have launched in a permissioned sidechain, but those billions of dollars never make it over into the DeFi world or into other consumer products. However, there's good reason why someone might want to start off in a permissioned environment. They don't want their assets to get lost. They need to be able to be in compliant with very different KYC AML standards. And so Aptos Ascend is a step forward in giving the confidence to these large institutions so they can issue these assets in a way that they continue to be in compliance with the rules and regulations that they have to operate with relative to the jurisdictions that they're in. But they can also not have to worry about being just walled off and put to the side. They can be collaborative with someone like Thala, like Merkle. New forms of money can be used in purchasing tickets or working with someone like NBC Universal to buy whatever digital assets they might introduce into the world. And that, we think, is a much smarter approach to a more open and permissionless world that we want to drive towards versus these walled gardens that already exist that are sort of pieced together with very expensive highway tolls that should not necessarily need to exist in today's environment.
100%. I was going to ask you, actually, my next question, you read my mind, was on Aptos Ascend. On the front of what are the updates there since the announcement? Is there anything going on internally that you can share? Kind of give us an update.
Yeah, and so with some of the partners that I talked about, from a practical standpoint, we really see Aptos Ascend working in a way that it evolves the existing experience within financial systems. And so someone like Microsoft, they're going to be providing general infrastructure and cloud support at the institutional legacy security systems level. So, if you are, a trillion-dollar asset manager that is excited about, moving beyond just the intermediary banks that you have to work with without relying on their infrastructure, you can, rest assured that Microsoft will continue will be able to provide that safety and security. And, they do that with a lot of financial institutions already today. Mm-hmm. Of course, Aptos Labs will be providing the blockchain tech and the Ascend suite features together with Microsoft to make that happen. But that's kind of where we provide the dApp ecosystem and, of course, inspire more novel architecture and use cases there. Folks like BCG, they're going to be providing some of the strategy services, working with the different stakeholders. And there's a lot that we're working on, in whether that be new forms of money through privately issued stablecoins or even one day central bank digital currencies, to new forms of money with folks like introducing money market funds. SKT, they are going to be providing infrastructure, and you can imagine the distribution power that someone like SK brings. Thinking about Korean markets where we have an amazing presence, and Korean financial institutions and partners in that part of the world are very progressive in their thinking. And so having someone like SK as a partner with us goes a long way. And as a reminder, T-Wallet, which is something SK built, is already integrated into the Aptos network. And that gives, not only Aptos a unique advantage, but also someone like SK a unique positioning. And then Brevin Howard, Alan and his team, they've been working very aggressively on advancing the way we think about financial institutions and how they're positioned in the future. And so together with them, we'll be co-building innovative use cases where, if you think about the new form of a money market fund or a different kind of financial product that Brevin would typically provide to their clients, that'll be on using Aptos Ascend. And so we've been, I was actually just in London last week, where I had a chance to spend some time with Himanshu and his team on thinking through, what are the first use cases that we'll be introducing relatively soon. And so it's keep an ear out or an eye out for some of those things coming with the Brevin Howard team.
Yeah, that's exciting. I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure there's going to be more announcements on that front. Aptos is definitely not a stranger to partnering with big name companies. Also partnered with Google Cloud a couple months ago. How do you kind of see that evolvement as like a beneficial factor to expanding Aptos's capabilities, maybe in a mainstream audience too?
It's a good point to sort of call out. I mean, we really like the thinking with the Web3 Google team over the last sort of, again, 3 years. I believe we were the first protocol that Google actually supported in a mainstream way. So it was exciting.
I remember covering it. Yeah.
I appreciate that coverage too. But why did Google feel comfortable? All right. They saw something they have never seen in Web3 before. They saw a network that actually gives them comfort. And we spent a lot of time with their engineering team right here in our office in Palo Alto. It helps we're neighbors with them as well. And we share a lot of the same principles. We want to introduce Web3 in a very safe, responsible way to the world, in a way that performance does not leave a user experience to be dissatisfactory. And so, it's exciting for them to sort of pick Aptos as their first partner. And we've been going quite deep with them on different use cases. We've understood where the world of financial systems is evolving. We've had a chance to kind of think about, cloud infrastructure and how we maintain, sufficient decentralization. In fact, I believe we have one of the highest L1 Nakamoto coefficients out in market. And so, thanks to the work that we've been doing with a lot of our partners like Google, we've been able to achieve that. But one thing that we're incredibly sort of motivated with together as a team with Google is not only being happy with where things are today, but continuing to push the performance of our network. And so where something like 30,000 transactions per second is sustained today, we've thought about and imagined a world where 1 million transactions per second could be achievable. And, not only is Google excited about this, but obviously our team is hard at work thinking about the different pieces that need to come together to make that happen. So, performance, reliability, and, how we get there really matters. But, the shared principle that we have with someone like Google is the user experience should be unmatched, and if not, ideally better with Web3 than it is with Web2. And, one of the first examples of that, or not first examples, actually, we've done a lot, but one of the more recent examples is a demonstration of things like keyless. right? Being able to log in into your Web3 account very simply using your Gmail versus having to, go through the very complex Web3 flows that we've all been, begrudgingly used to, is a big step in that direction, right? It's been great to see, someone like Google be a partner and help us think about that user experience and continue to evolve, and a lot more to come with Aptos and Google in the future.
Yeah, I think user accessibility is such an important key factor to onboarding so many more people in Web3, but also outside of it as well. So that kind of sign-on mechanism that you just brought up is super useful, in my opinion. And I'm someone who knows how to use these things. Which areas and sectors do you want to tap into further for partnerships with Aptos? Are there certain companies you want to work with? Certain sectors, genres, maybe, if we can't say specifics?
Yeah, I mean, we are definitely not a stranger, as I mentioned, to a lot, big name companies, and most recently, we announced the relationship with NBC Universal, and so I think we'll probably share the link for that as well. But different sectors that I think make Web3 interesting is definitely in the DePIN or the DVIN area, and Aptos is designed to be the best place for both DePIN and DVIN categories. And so, that's a space where I'm excited for more innovation from founders. When you think about, decentralized, electric grids, where you have power that is being generated beyond what's actually needed from a demand perspective, how do you redistribute that power? And we've sort of reimagined these infrastructures historically, but we haven't seen solutions come to scale yet. There are certainly areas like places like Texas where you could reimagine what a new electric grid might look like. Well, I guess you might have to compete with Elon since he's thinking about something similar.
You could do that, yeah.
That's it would be fun to think about this with him and Tesla. But if you have all this energy that's sitting idle, how can you redistribute it to places in a way where pricing can be more demand based? And we see this all the time, right? Like, electric distribution rates are different during the day or peak loads versus at night when no one's using the grid. But there's all this storage that exists already during the day. And so imagine being able to redistribute that through a token mechanism. We have the infrastructure both physically, and now we have mechanisms and economic rails that can help facilitate this. So that would be something fun to think about. Similarly, how do you think about the next version of a Helium, for example? And while we've seen some of these inspirations take place and come to market, this was many years ago. And so the next evolution of that, I think, will be far more interesting, given you have a network that can be far more reliable, far more efficient from a fees perspective. And so where we're excited about is, imagine AT&T, Verizon, or SK coming together to provide new forms of networks. And by the way, they kind of do this already today, right? Boost and these other subsidiary networks that exist are more cartoned off from existing supply that exists within these telcos. And so how do you redistribute that in a more efficient way? And so we're excited. I particularly would love to see more DePIN and DVIN projects take advantage of the excess supply that's out there and create more price efficiencies in these markets. Aptos is literally designed in a way to help do this in a way that no other protocol can. So these are things that can only happen on Aptos.
Yeah. Before we wrap up into the last section, I want to remind the listeners, if you have any questions, post them in the chat and we will try to get to them. But with that said, looking to the future, I want to discuss your outlook for the second half of the year for Aptos from your perspective, Mo. We've covered a lot of ground here, but there's a lot of momentum behind the network right now. I've noticed it. I'm sure these people listening noticed it, and you definitely have. How are you looking at the Aptos network right now and making sure that the growth, the adoption from users, developers, etc., continues to grow for the second half of the year?
I think it's a lot of the work that we're still doing today extended into the rest of this year. And so what I mean by that is if you have large players like NBC Universal here sitting side by side with Aptos Ascend, a new financial system, you have really good distribution and exposure now. And if you tie that together with some of the new Web3 businesses that are coming online that can work together with these large, folks that are already going to be on Aptos, we think that creates an unfair advantage in the market. And the last time we've seen this type of disruption take place is probably when social networks started to take off. You've had, new folks launching applications and products in social networks that explore being a platform. At the same time, you had large distributors, large content creators also be there on day one. And so we think that accelerating this or this creating this flywheel effect, both with large Web2 players, but also these amazing Web3 entrepreneurs, is something that will create a very interesting flywheel effect. I'm excited about that for the rest of this year. You'll see a lot more announcements coming up in the coming months, and of course, a lot of those will be highlighted in a more experiential way at Aptos Experience. And so, one thing that I'm personally really looking forward to is not only talking about what we have built in Web3, but I think it's also very important for Aptos to showcase this in terms of an experience. What can you do with Web3? And we've been talking about it for decades, but we have not actually been able to showcase this in a way that Web3 feels it's a challenger to Web2. Aptos Experience is going to be one of the first. Our first Aptos Experience, our inaugural event, is going to be one of the first mechanisms that displays the full breadth and magic of Web3 in a very powerful way. So I'm looking forward to that, and so is our exciting team and our community. That's all going to be in Seoul, September 5th and 6th.
Yeah, 100%. On the front of the Aptos community, where do you think they have the most attention, or where is their attention right now? Like when you speak to community members at events, or you scroll through crypto Twitter, as many of us do, what do you think is the pulse of the community right now?
So I guess this is a question more so on not only Aptos, but broader macro too. But from a Aptos developer community perspective, I think we are incredibly heads down, and that's been awesome because we attract some of the best builders in the world. And so I think the pulse has been on pushing product forward, pushing features forward, taking full advantage of the network. I think that's going to start to shift in the second half of this year, where some ecosystems have been very loud. It's hard to tell like what's actually happening beyond the noise. And I'm excited for the Aptos community to start to share and be as vocal as other places. And I think we have every right to be right there toe to toe with any Web3 ecosystem that's been building for either 3 or 4 years to almost a decade. Now, the other pulse I would say that's very different and unique to Aptos is how we do that. We're not a group of folks that think that we're better than others, or I don't think we're tribalistic here. Although we do believe Aptos is the best, but it's how we get there. I think it's incredibly important for us to maintain a collaborative tone. I think the Ethereum community has done a phenomenal job of building for the last 7 years or so. Well, actually more than 7 years, pre ETH launch.
A while, yeah.
And, but I think what's going to happen now is the folks that have been, through an amazing journey in that world are going to start to see, they can extend their vision of, or their aspirations into a new tech stack. Move provides that. And so, knowing a lot of the builders in our space, we're looking forward to working closely with the Ethereum community. And you'll see, some exciting news come beyond, what I'm saying here. Folks like SushiSwap and PancakeSwap took full advantage of that early on. And, we embraced them with open arms. And so I think together with the right group of builders, whether that be projects like LivePair, projects like SushiSwap, we're going to see a lot more. And I think having the Aptos community built side by side with the Solidity and the Ethereum community is going to be something that I think is going to produce an amazing sort of blooming effect for Web3 in a way that we haven't seen that, both technically and then also, spiritually. And so that's something that I think the Aptos community is going to be really accelerating and highlighting in the second half of this year.
Mm-hmm. My last major question for you, Mo, is what is something that you are excited for going forward? We've covered a lot of ground here. There's a lot to be excited about, but what's something that keeps you up at night and wakes you up in the morning? The biggest thing in Aptos right now for you?
Well, I think, one thing that's really exciting for me personally is just, we're so early in Aptos, and it's unbelievable to, just going back to the way you opened up this conversation, to see how much has happened in such, despite how early we are. And so, when I look at 10 years forward, I started off in the Ethereum ecosystem where, ETH was nothing but a blip, and there were, 30 developers kind of pushing things forward. If you look at that today, it's a $500 billion ecosystem. And if you look at where Aptos is today, it's right there where the early days of Ethereum were. The difference again is, we have an amazing tech stack that gives us an unfair advantage in the market to win. And so when I look at a lot of the builders in the space and the builders that are coming on, I'm so excited about where we could be in 10 years from now. And, I can't wait to, pick my head up in a decade when my daughter is, I guess almost 11, and see how, the Web3 ecosystem has grown specifically for Aptos. And, if you see us flipping Solana today, we did that in such a short amount of time. Imagine what happens in a year from now, 2 years from now, or 10 years from now. We can probably be sitting at a new version of the internet. And so, what keeps me up at night is the excitement and I wish there were less hours I could sleep and keep working and keep building. I think that's one of the most motivating things. And it's one of the things that gets me excited to come into work every day too.
Amazing. Yeah, no, but you need sleep. You need sleep to keep doing this. So definitely do that. I love that. And I want to ask you some of the questions that people in the chat have been asking. One of them is, where does Mo see the most opportunity for junior move developers on Aptos? RWAs, DeFi, DePIN?
I mean, it's an interesting question. So if you're a junior developer, I guess I'm thinking about, where would you want to start building? I think RWAs are a great one to focus on from a long-term perspective. But if you want to get something out in market today, I would certainly be thinking about, what can be deployed without, again, a very complex stakeholder engagement. And DeFi payments are probably a much quicker place to get going. Another answer that wasn't mentioned maybe in terms of optionality is, looking at things like NFTs or, other cultural communities. And we've seen, of a fun sort of meme coin environment this cycle as well. Those are great places to get started as a junior developer. I would say, and I think Camila is dropping in some thoughts here as well, but I would say also reaching out to a lot of the builders that already exist and getting their thoughts along the way too. And so, those are the places that I would look for if you're a junior move developer moving into the Aptos ecosystem.
Okay, awesome. And I know we are coming up near time, so I think that is a wrap for us today. Thank you to everyone else for listening in, and thank you, Mo, for your insightful comments and sharing everything. We're looking forward to talking again next quarter, and hopefully we see you all at Seoul. In Seoul.
In Seoul. Awesome.